Have you ever waited for someone to come back? Someone who left without a word of explanation? You wonder if there is still hope or if you are just deceiving yourself. I am Jim Rohn, and today I will help you face the truth, not just from emotions, but also from neuroscience, behavioral economics, and Stoic philosophy. From a neuroscience perspective, how does an avoidant person's brain react to loss? Do they regret leaving you, or do they actually feel relieved? Through the lens of behavioral economics, we will explore the psychological effect of the loss has already happened and why avoidant individuals rarely look back. And from Stoic philosophy, we will discuss a bitter but necessary truth: why trying to control the outcome in love only brings you more suffering. If you have ever stayed up at night wondering, will they come back? This video is for you. Stay until the end, because I will not only help you find the answer, but also help you find yourself. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the most insightful and practical psychological perspectives on love and human nature. Now, let's uncover the truth. We will explore this through the story I am about to tell. It will help you find your own answer, and I will reveal an interesting truth that I am sure you won't want to miss. All right, my dear friend, let's begin. The story is about Ethan Carter, 32 years old, a successful man in finance, intelligent and charismatic. Isabel "Izzy" Hayes, 29 years old, a free-spirited artist. Ethan sat in the darkness, his spacious New York apartment eerily silent. The glass of wine in his hand trembled slightly as the streetlights cast shadows on the wall in front of him. The phone on the table vibrated. He glanced at the screen. Izzy. Ethan, don't do this to me. Don't ignore me. I need you. His chest tightened. He knew he should reply, but instead he just turned off the screen. Outside the door, urgent knocking echoed. Ethan closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. She was here. Ethan! Open the door! Izzy's voice cracked, as if she had been crying. He sat still, hoping that if he didn't answer, she would leave. But she never gave up easily. 1 minute, 2 minutes. Then, bang! The door burst open and Izzy stormed in, her eyes red, her breath unsteady. She had used the spare key. Did you really plan to let me knock until I collapsed? She stepped closer, her hair disheveled, her eyes shimmering with tears. Ethan stood up, keeping his distance. Izzy, you shouldn't be here. Shouldn't? She let out a bitter laugh. You suddenly disappear for 2 weeks, no texts, no calls, and now you're telling me I shouldn't be here? Ethan avoided her gaze, turned away, and poured more wine. I don't know what to say to you. Tell me you don't love me, if that's the truth. She stepped closer, her voice breaking. Tell me it was all a game, that I imagined everything, that the nights we spent together, the way you held me so tightly, the way you whispered my name, tell me it was all a lie. Ethan gripped his glass tightly. Izzy, you don't understand. Then explain it to me, Ethan. Explain why you keep pushing me away, why you can't just once, admit that you need me. The room fell silent. Ethan turned back, his gaze colder than ever. Because I don't need you, Izzy. I don't need anyone. His words cut deep like a blade. She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. Don't do this to me, Ethan, she whispered. I know you're lying. I know you love me. No, you're wrong. He set his glass down, his voice empty. I don't love you, and I never will. Izzy stepped back as if she had been physically struck. Ethan! He looked at her, forcing himself to keep his emotions hidden. If he wavered, she would never leave. Go, Izzy! A long moment passed. Izzy stood still, her eyes filled with pain and disappointment. Finally, she let out a faint laugh, wiped her tears, and turned away. The door slammed shut behind her. Ethan stood there, staring into the darkness. 2 months later, Ethan walked past a street corner, stopping unconsciously in front of an art gallery. On the glass window was a large poster with the words, "Echoes of a Broken Heart, Isabel Hayes." His heart skipped a beat. Inside, every painting was about them, the moments he had shared with Izzy, his silhouette standing silently by the window, his hand brushing through her hair, her hopeful eyes looking at him in the dim light. At the center of the gallery was a single painting with no face. A man stood with his back turned, his figure fading into the darkness. Title: The Man Who Couldn't Stay. Ethan stared at the painting, his throat tightening. For the first time in his life, he felt an emptiness so vast it was suffocating. He wanted to run to her, to tell her he was wrong, that he missed her, that he truly needed her. But Izzy was gone, and this time she wasn't coming back. That love would forever remain unfinished. Ethan Carter, the man who always ran from love, had finally understood the pain of being left behind. Next, here comes the first fascinating part. I will explain this psychology through the neuroscientific perspective, the brain and avoidant response. The brain of an avoidant person does not function the same way as those with a secure attachment style when facing intimacy or stressful situations in a relationship. When someone who loves deeply is abandoned, they may experience intense emotional pain. But for an avoidant person, their brain reacts entirely differently. Let's return to the story of Ethan Carter and Izzy. Ethan is not a bad person. He did not leave to hurt Izzy. In reality, his brain compelled him to do so. The sympathetic nervous system of an avoidant person is more reactive when they feel trapped in intimacy. For Izzy, closeness is wonderful, but for Ethan it feels like a cage slowly closing in. The first time Izzy said, "I love you," Ethan felt suffocated. His heart raced, his body tensed, his amygdala, the brain's emotional processing center, triggered a strong withdrawal response. He didn't realize it at the time, but his brain was signaling danger, as if he were stepping into a life-threatening situation. A study by Gilleth et al. 2005 demonstrated that individuals with an avoidant attachment style have heightened amygdala responses when faced with intimacy. This means that when someone gets emotionally close, their brain reacts as if they are encountering a threat. The brain of an avoidant person does not process loss the same way as someone with an anxious or secure attachment style. When Ethan pushed Izzy away, his brain released a wave of dopamine and low cortisol, a signal that he had escaped a threat. This creates a biological reflex. Every time Ethan distances himself from an intimate relationship, his brain reinforces that behavior, making him believe that leaving is the right solution. And that is why he will not come back. Avoidant individuals do not stay away because they lack emotions, but because their brain has trained them to believe that leaving is the only way to stay safe. Izzy may wonder, does Ethan miss me? The answer might be yes, but the more important question is, does he want to come back? And the answer is no. She may love him, but she cannot override how his brain has been wired for years. No text, no conversation, no waiting will change that. And when you understand this, you will no longer wait for someone who will never return. You can move on, not because you didn't love them, but because you deserve someone who won't run when love gets deep. The second fascinating perspective, the behavioral economics view, the loss has already happened. Does this seem unrelated to an avoidant person's psychology? In reality, it is. Let me explain, and you'll find it truly interesting. In behavioral economics, there is a phenomenon called the sunk cost fallacy, which means people tend to cling to what they have invested in, even when it no longer benefits them. For example, you buy a ticket to watch a movie, but once it starts, you realize it's terrible. Yet you still sit through it just because you paid for it. Most people in love are the same. They don't want to let go of a relationship they have invested time, effort, and emotions into. But for avoidant individuals, this rule does not apply. When they decide to leave, they see it as a completed transaction. Like an investor who has withdrawn their capital and will not reinvest, even if they once believed in the project. This is exactly what happened with Ethan Carter. When Izzy walked out of Ethan's apartment that night, she thought he would realize he was wrong, that he would call her back. But Ethan did not call. Not because he had no feelings, but because, in his mind, the relationship was already over. Ethan's brain operates in a way that prioritizes avoiding loss over pursuing happiness. In Thinking Fast and Slow, Daniel Kahneman points out that people hate losing more than they enjoy gaining. This means, if Ethan were to return, he would have to face the emotional issues he was avoiding from the beginning. This is like a high-risk investment. Uncertain, stressful. If he keeps moving forward, he avoids the pain of confronting emotions, avoids expectations, avoids difficult conversations. For Izzy, love is something worth fighting for, but for Ethan, it was a failed investment, and he does not want to risk any further losses. A typical person might look back at beautiful past moments and want to try again, but for avoidant individuals, they do not look back at what was lost. They only look forward. They have no motivation to return because their emotions disconnect too quickly. Their brain tells them, this relationship was stressful. If you go back, it will be the same. This is why Ethan has no intention of texting Izzy. Even if she meant something to him, she was not more important than the peace he feels now that she is gone. While Izzy is in pain over losing him, Ethan simply stops thinking about her. Avoidant individuals have a "I left so I don't need to go back" mindset. They see love as an investment, and once they have withdrawn, they do not want to lose more. The biggest lesson: do not try to change their mind. They have closed that door. And instead of waiting for them to open it again, turn around and find another door where you are truly loved. The final perspective: Stoicism and accepting that an avoidant person will not come back. Perhaps one of the greatest pains in love is waiting for someone who has left to return. We ask ourselves, do they miss me? Do they regret it? Is there anything I can do to change their mind? But Stoicism, an ancient philosophy built on self-control, reason, and acceptance of reality, teaches us that these questions are not only meaningless, but also the root of our suffering. Stoicism believes that people cannot control the actions or thoughts of others, they can only control themselves. This means that if someone has decided to leave, your suffering or hope that they will return is merely a waste of energy. Epictetus once said, "Do not seek what is not yours." An avoidant person, like Ethan Carter in our story, did not leave because you were not good enough or because your love was meaningless. They left because their brain was programmed to do so, because they believed that distance was the only way to maintain freedom and avoid pain. Izzy, like many who were left behind, was trapped in a familiar psychological illusion, the belief that if she tried hard enough, if she loved strongly enough, Ethan would change. But from a Stoic perspective, that is only an illusion. The only person she can change is herself. Spending too much time thinking about Ethan, waiting for a message that will never come, only increases her pain without leading to any results. Stoicism teaches us that pain does not come from loss, but from how we perceive that loss. When Ethan closed the door and did not look back at Izzy, he had fully accepted his decision. For an avoidant person, going back means facing the stress they tried to escape from the beginning. They see no benefit in continuing a relationship they have already chosen to leave, and so, hoping they will change their mind, goes against objective reality. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, once said, "You have the power to not have an opinion about anything, and when you let go of an opinion, you will find peace." Izzy has the right to stop tormenting herself over Ethan. She has the right to stop caring why he left, or whether he is happy without her. When she stops allowing Ethan to control her emotions, she will truly be free. One of the core principles of Stoicism is focusing on what you can control and letting go of what is beyond your reach. You cannot control whether an avoidant person will come back, but you can control how you respond to their departure. You can choose to stop waiting, to stop living in the past, to stop dwelling on what could have been. Try looking at this story from a different angle. If Izzy did not chase after Ethan, if she immediately accepted that he was gone and focused on herself, what would happen? Maybe she would heal faster. Maybe she would find another love, one where she never had to wonder if the other person was willing to stay. Maybe she would grow, become stronger, and ultimately happier. Stoicism is not just a philosophy for overcoming heartbreak. It is a guide to living a life that is not controlled by things beyond your grasp. Waiting for someone does not mean you are loyal to love. It only means you are not being loyal to yourself. If an avoidant person does not come back, that is not a sign of failure. It is an opportunity for you to find a new path, a life where you no longer live in anxiety, fear, and hope for something you cannot control. Stoicism teaches that happiness is not in anyone else's hands. Happiness lies in how you face reality, accept the truth, and move forward. And when you do that, you will not only overcome a lost relationship, you will find yourself. The final lesson: if an avoidant person does not return, do not wait for them. Do not try to change them. Let go, move forward, and build the life you truly deserve. If you've made it this far, you are likely searching for answers for yourself. Whether that person will come back, whether there is still hope. But as we have seen through neuroscience, behavioral economics, and Stoic philosophy, the answer is clear. An avoidant person does not leave because you are not good enough, but because their brain, belief system, and mindset do not allow them to return. They do not come back. Not because they lack feelings, but because they do not want to face those feelings. They do not come back, not because they do not miss you, but because they have trained themselves to believe that leaving is the best choice. And most importantly, their absence does not mean you are unworthy of real love. Stoicism teaches us that happiness is not in anyone else's hands but your own. Let go of what does not belong to you, focus on what you can control, and give your love to someone truly deserving, starting with yourself. If this video has helped you realize something new or changed your perspective on love and avoidant psychology, leave a comment and share your thoughts. I want to hear your story and let you know that you are not alone on this journey. Have you ever loved an avoidant person? How did you move on? Share your experience to help others who may need encouragement. And don't forget to hit subscribe to continue receiving deep insights into psychology, philosophy, and human behavior. I'm Jim Rohn, and I'll see you in the next videos. Thank you for watching. Remember, you don't need to wait for someone to feel whole. You are already whole.